What happens at laser tag never stays at laser tag.
Laser Unfocused Tag Talk.
Laser Unfocused Tag Talk.
I feel like you could be like in Ghostbusters or something.
Oh my God, you have got some stories.
Let's talk about laser tag.
Who knew you were a laser tag legend?
Time to get laser unfocused. Tag Talk with Tivia.
Welcome to Laser Unfocused Tag Talk. Hi, I'm Tivia. When a laser tag enthusiast makes the leap to become a laser tag operator, there are bound to be some stories. Nathan Buxhoeveden, aka Aztec, talks about the adventures and challenges he's experienced along this journey. I'd like to welcome Nathan Buxhoeveden, owner of Kynytyx in Bellport, Long Island, and longtime laser tag player, to join me for some Laser Unfocused Tag Talk. Hey, Nathan, how's it going?
Hi, Laurie. Doing okay?
Very good. Now, you and I have something in common, which is that we have played at a crazy amount of laser tag arenas. So I'd like to start with that and tell me, how many arenas have you played at?
Played nowhere near as many as you. In the 280s, 290s played.
That sounds like there's an asterisk there. So, okay, you've played 280, but is there more to that?
Yes, I tracked the sites I visited. Both sites visited that are still active, and some sites I visited, after they closed or before they opened or whatever. I just couldn't be there when they actually existed or were in business operation. I'm in the high 300s of sites I've been to physically.
It's pretty amazing to see what some of these locations do. And I mean, when you have a passion for laser tag, you just want to see everything. It's how I feel anyway. Do you feel kind of the same about that?
Oh, yeah. But as you know, sometimes you show up to a site and they're just like, we're private only or whatever, like a sports club that's for a daycare, and you just can't play. So I used to record that I've been to the site, but sometimes they'll let you walk the arena but not play, so I had like a separate column for those.
Yep, I totally had that experience also, but it's always the most fun when you get to play because we both love laser tag. And I'd love to know a little bit about, how did it all start for you? Where did you first play and what got you so enthusiastic about laser tag?
The first I ever played was actually Photon as a kid here on Long Island. They had the East Setauket Photon. I want to say I was probably 9. It was a birthday party, had a, kind of the wealthy friend that could afford to do that kind of thing and did it. And then I must have just been like a helmet with feet, at the time. Tiny little kid. Those things were heavy back then. I barely remember it. I was enamored with the Photon TV show as a little kid. So that was just the most exciting thing. I think that's all I could see in my head when it was there, not what's actually happening. Because all my memories of it basically are from the Photon TV show, not from the actual experience.
I think anybody who was a kid in that era looked at that TV show with incredibly different eyes than the older players. So what about that grabbed you?
The first time I ever saw anything like that, it was like a whole nother world. The design of the arena, the lights, the music, everything was just out of this world, basically experience. The size, especially as a little kid, that was just grandiose and impressive. I was just going to say that was the first time I got to play, but it was many years after that before I got to play again.
So when did you really get into it with like some serious playing those many years after?
I started getting to play regularly when I was a freshman in high school. Some older friends had started going to a Laser Storm and a Qzar site here on Long Island. One group was going to one was with another. They kind of talked to each other and started going back and forth between them. And I got to start going along with them. And that became like a weekly thing. And then we had a zone site or Tron site open, and then a zone site. We used to kind of go to each of them like either once a month or, once a week.
So you really got to experience a whole variety of different laser tags. And did you have a favorite then versus what you're playing now?
Yes. I was probably favorite back then was actually it was probably Laser Storm, but at times it would have been Zone. The Tron was the old Tron with BMX armor, like LT7, and then later got upgraded to LT9. And it was fun to play. It was very different from the others, but it didn't it just wasn't quite the same exciting. The Storm that we played was totally different than Laser Storm elsewhere. It was undivided. We had multiple lives. That was super exciting. Eventually, it got more boring. The zone site was the more interesting one. It was the first one we actually had a league, so I'd say that was probably more interesting.
Very cool. Now, I know you and I have talked about different experiences, and when you referenced the Tron with BMX armor, talk to me a little about what you remember of that.
It was dramatically different than anything I saw before. Like even Qzar, which has the say the BMX bike armor, it's not as big or bulky. It was more like the Photon with like this serious helmet that you put on and battery pack. The first experience I got that was something like that was the Tron. The giant shoulder pads with the big sensors on it and the chest plate. It was definitely something heavy, whereas the Laser Storm was the tiny box and a headset. I said even Qzar wasn't nowhere near the same degree. And
Gotcha. And some of those systems involved code names, some of them didn't. You go by Aztec. Tell me about your code name. Where did that come from, and why is that significant to you?
Well, pretty much back in the day, like none of us got to pick our code names. All of our friends basically picked our code names. Like, we had code names that people would start doing later. Like at first, everyone was just John or Mike or Tiffany or whatever was your name, and a site opened up later that started using code names. It actually wasn't the Zone site because we just had Zap Zone. They didn't have memberships. It was, I always referred to it as basically like Laser Blast. It was a Korean knockoff of Zone. They only had 3 sites in the US. It was a laser space system. And they had a membership program. It was the first place we ever had membership cards, and they had to have a code name assigned to it. And at first, everyone kind of picked one. And then at some point, they decided that nobody was allowed to keep that one. Everyone had to have one that everyone else picked. So Aztec was picked for me because it was from the Tick. I don't know if you know that comic book and cartoon TV show. There's one of the comics where he's running around yelling Aztec. It's just supposed to be nonsense. It has no point, and everyone thought it'd be funny because I wouldn't know what it meant, and that would annoy me. But I actually knew the Tick. So, and then once you basically pick the code name, none of the group I played with for years would ever let you change it. So that's what everyone called you. So that's how I got introduced to the rest of the world.
Yep. Once you're branded, you're stuck with it.
Yeah.
In fact, I found that even around people that I knew, they didn't know my real name. They only knew me as Tivia. Did you ever have that?
Yes. Well, not quite so much as Aztecs, obviously, that name, but I have met some people who thought your name was actually Tivia.
And that, of course, is a throwback to the old Photon show.
Yes.
So a lot of history with laser tag. And as enthusiasts and players, we view it from one vantage point, but you and your wife made the jump. And I'd love to know what made you decide to make the leap from being a player and enthusiast to now a laser tag operator?
We're crazy. Well, I'd looked at Long Island, this area, for many, many years. This area kind of had been underserved for a while. We've had 2 Qzars out in this area, basically like 3 miles west of us where I'm located and 3 miles east of us historically. One, the roof fell in, and that could have closed that place. And the other one, there's kind of this whole crazy scandal with the owners and stealing from each other, et cetera. And that one shut down. And since then, it's kind of been underserved. And so it looked like an opportunity. My job was pretty supportive, and we definitely can make that move. So we tried it. Then COVID came along and made everything a nightmare. So.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment. You did try and open an arena in a really unique time in history. And so what was your experience? I mean, when did you start planning, and when did things fall off the rails, and when did things get back on track?
We started planning late 2018 and really committed to it in the summer, early summer, late spring, May, June 2019. I'd say we decided we'd commit probably April 2019. And started putting serious money behind it in May and June. We were shopping for a building and financing the quote 2 hardest parts. We had gotten the financing, but the building was constantly being difficult. The real estate it wasn't the best of choices in a lot of cases. The building that we're in now opened up, I want to say in September of that year, late September. So we kind of just had stumbled across it like well into our search period. We negotiated with the landlord. We got basically an agreement settled out, and we signed the lease. And like 3 weeks later, because we had just submitted, we had to sign the lease to get all the paperwork in for the permits. In New York, there's no such thing as amusement. So anything that's zone 1A can be amusement, but you have to get a permit for that business. If a business is there and closes, the permit or the use goes away after 3 years of non-use. So you can move into a bowling alley that had just closed and not have to get a special use. But if the bowling alley becomes, something else, a nightclub or a warehouse or something, after 3 years, if the bowling alley moves back in, they have to get a whole new permit again. And they have to get that permit before they can do any other permits. So we had signed the lease, submitted the paperwork for the permit, and then COVID shut everything down. And then they basically said, we can't go forward because you can't open. So the state says you can open, we can't look at the permit for the use. So
you were on pause for a stretch of little better than a year?
Yeah, 13 months.
13 months.
Then so eventually we were able to get the permits moving forward, but that took a lot longer than planned. And in the process, the bank that we had gotten approved from got purchased by another bank, a bank that does not do indoor entertainment. In fact, the head of the lending department got changed to this new bank person for the region, who I had already spoke to when we were originally seeking finance, and says we don't do entertainment. So we had to find a new bank. And that was right as we got our permits, so we were ready to go. So we ended up getting a whole nother delay. So we had a 13-month delay waiting on the permits, and then another 8 months getting the permits and then getting the financing. So
then I imagine that you kind of fell victim to the same things that a lot of things are dealing with supply chain issues. COVID really kind of messed with a lot of things. And so I'm sure that didn't help with the delays any.
Yeah, the cost of materials was through the roof. The delays on the construction were unprecedented is the phrase I kept using. It really was. Talk to any of the other operators or whatever did it and listen to their stories, and they're just like, nope. And now we hear from other people that are trying to expand or do other things, and it's just unbelievable. They're compared to their other experiences, this is just a totally different world. It's gotten a little better nowadays, but yeah, there's just everything, things you can't even imagine. There's shortage on tape, there's shortage on paint. At one point I was actually told by Sherwin-Williams that we bought all the paint that they have like in the entire region, like in 3 states, for black paint.
Oh wow.
The arena, because there was a shortage on black paint, the material they make from it, so there was nothing in the pipeline. It's like, and a lot of people were doing home renovations, so a lot of paint had gone out the door, and they didn't have any more of the base they needed to make more. So yeah.
Well, you made it to the other side, and I have been to your arena a few times now, and it's gorgeous, and you made it through all of those challenges. And actually there were some interesting things in between also, because before you actually officially opened, you and I had agreed that your arena was going to be number 400 in my series, and we went through almost all the hurdles you could to make that number fall in line, including a temporary arena that I understand I am the only one who ever got to play. So could you just kind of tell the story of how that happened before you actually got your real arena opened?
For a time, it looked like we actually were going to catch a little bit of luck and be able to open, not on schedule, but on a schedule that we were targeting for. We want to be open before spring break and that time frame, obviously. We ended up opening into the summer, which is the slowest time. So we want to open, get a higher revenue period, be able to do initial big advertising for a time that would coincide with the peak traffic. So we were attempting to do that. It looked like it was going to happen, but there's going to be delays in getting the arena installed, which is obviously going to delay the laser tag getting installed. However, we were able to get a bunch of the laser tag equipment already. And we had a bunch of curtains for VR that we weren't able to get the equipment for the VR. So we had the bright idea that we'll set up the curtains and all the framing, basically like photo booth, curtain rods, and get some tarps and set block and make a temporary arena with that and some pop-up tents as if it was like a, mobile tactical field, like in a gymnasium or something.
Mm-hmm.
And we set up about 20 of the packs and had a temporary arena just in case we'd be able to actually open, be able to do something, instead of nothing. But that didn't pan out because we ended up running into a bunch of last minute delays. So it actually turned out that we wouldn't be able to open anyway until we actually had the arenas.
So I came down and I saw that setup, and I guess I'm the only one, but it worked out so nicely because officially I did get to play Kynytyx as my 400th arena in the course of some other travels. And then I came back when it became a real arena. And you have done some amazing and really interesting things that you're not going to see in every arena. So yours has some very unique features. Tell me about what you've got at Kynytyx that you're not going to run across just everywhere.
Well, we have, first of all, it's a divided arena or a dividable arena. It has 4 doors that separate 2 halves that we can close off or open. They're maglock doors, so we could just flip a switch and the doors open. The doors are camouflaged so that they look like the regular parts of the arena. So I think you've noticed it, and we've had a lot of customers notice it as well. They can't, unless we show where they are, most people can't seem to tell where they are. Even if they play one game with them closed, one game with them open, they don't notice. They're like, where are those doors? The room's just bigger suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
So we want it to be more organic than just like a garage door or something I've seen elsewhere where you can separate two parts of the room. And then on top of it, the arenas are all symmetrical to each other. So they are offset from each other about 13 feet due to the shape of the room, but we designed them in such a way that nothing would be out of place basically from something else. So everywhere there's a door in one, there's an opening, that same opening is mimicked on the other side. So other than being off by a few inches here or there because the building wasn't quite square, it's basically each side is symmetrical to every other side, and the 2 halves of the arena are identical. I think we did have one oddness that come out. The fire marshal actually gave a 1-person difference in size between the 2 because the doors can close. They treated each one as its own separate fire rated area. So we actually have 2 like occupancy signs, and one arena has 52 rating persons and one is 51 persons rating because the arena was off by 7 total square feet because there's 3-inch difference because the building isn't square, and so it came out to like 7 total square feet, which is just enough to be 1 extra person.
I love that. Well, when that becomes an issue, we'll count those feet very carefully. But the fact that you can open it up into one arena space is very cool. But what I also think is really interesting is that you have it set up in such a way that you can run games with the same system going on concurrently. So what went into making those decisions and making that happen?
Well, Tim Canizio from Laser Force, as you know, is basically the North American expert at setting up multiple arenas. Laser Force has a pretty decent edge from some other systems in basically running 2 concurrent arenas with the same set of packs. There's 2 radio systems going back to 2 different computers. And those 2 computers, just by having one computer able to control both radio sets and you just disable it, only talks to one set of packs and the other computer talks to the other. If you simply remove that one radio communication and turn it on the other one, then all the packs are on the same computer. So there's essentially a master computer that can run for all 40 packs as one and all bases under one. Or if you disable that radio set, it only talks to the 20 that are on radio set 1, and radio set 2 operates in arena 2. So it's very quick to switch back and forth. We've got most of the staff trained fairly well, and I'd say with 2 people, one making sure the doors are shut and one doing it in the computer, it's like 20 seconds.
Is that something that's basically unique to your setup because you wanted it that way, or is that something that you know to be offered in other areas?
As I understand it, at least for Laser Force sites, we're the only one in the United States. There are sites that are operating multiple. In fact, there's one, I believe, operating 3 arenas that can actually converge into one in Canada. For our particular use case, it was the local business market. Every laser tag and all the other birthday parties offer complete exclusive use of facilities, not necessarily the whole place, but private party rooms and private use for the laser tag. The normal laser tag profit margin is basically built around having 40 packs because I can throw 3 parties in at a time and they all play in the same game. That's not acceptable here. A laser tag tried a few years back and it went terrible for them. Parents would just walk out. How dare you? So the presumption is that they're going to have a complete private use and they're not going to pay more for it. They're just going to get it. So in order to be able to run more than one party at a time, we had to be able to separate the arena, but you also have large groups and you'd be able to play them together. So it was basically allowed us to have the best of both worlds, which led into an interesting case I hadn't even thought of, but came up. We had a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. The parents didn't want to have 2 different parties at 2 different times or 2 different places and have to do it twice, but the kids did not want to share. No kid would want to share their birthday. They each wanted their own friends. So they were able to actually, have a party where each one has separate parties, 2 separate party rooms, 2 separate games, each with their own friends, totally separate scoreboards, scorecards, you name it, but at the same time. So the parents only had to do it once.
That is really clever. And it's interesting how necessity is the mother of invention. And I have noticed that tendency towards parties, particularly I've observed it in the tri-state area. What do you think it is about your region that makes that such a specific request?
I honestly have no idea. I've asked other operators that I've known going, back to the first ones that opened, and everyone said it's just always been that way. Like it was just a customer demand from the beginning. I'm not really sure. It's before I ever started playing. When I first started noticing parties, or just as a regular customer coming the weekend, when I first started noticing, the business a little bit more, and became a regular and could see what was going on, or working at a place, it was already well entrenched. I mean, many years entrenched. No one seems to know when it started or how, but it became the norm. Like anybody here just knows that that's sort of the way it goes. And what other sites would do just does not fly. Occasionally you get somebody that's moved to the area or might be completely new, but I have no idea what it is, but everyone expects it. Even people who have never done a laser tag birthday party before automatically know it will be private for them. So it's just something.
Well, it's interesting how laser tag is received in different areas also. Like there are parts of the country where you walk in at any time of any hour of the day and it's fine. And there are other times when you definitely have to work around those birthday parties. But you've had the experience of playing laser tag, not just in different states, but different countries, and seen a lot of things. So I love to hear the stories, and I know you have some. So let's talk about some of the interesting things that you've seen, if not necessarily at your arena, during the years that you've been playing laser tag. I know you've been overseas a number of times. And what out of your experience would you say has been maybe the most interesting or outrageous laser tag arena?
Iceland. Just because it was, so it wasn't the most unique arena in layout or design. It was a bit on the small side, but well designed, good use of the space. But it was just, I'm in a laser tag arena in Iceland. I mean, who would have thought, like, even after traveling to other countries, it wasn't something I would have thought about, wow, like Iceland wasn't a place I thought I'd be, but being there for another laser tag trip and had a great stopover chance and stopped over and, had a nice owner reached out to him. He came out and picked me up at the hotel and brought me out to show me around the site. That was not the most impressive, layout of the field or anything, or even the most remote, so to speak. But it was still just an experience I'll remember forever.
That's awesome. How many countries have you played in?
8.
Okay. And Iceland was your most memorable, it sounds
Yes.
like. But I know sometimes playing in areas outside of the United States, what they deem acceptable practices are different than what we might. So have you come across any really interesting, for good or for bad, experiences at arenas, but you're like, that would never fly back home?
I assume you're guiding towards the arena of death, as everyone calls it. Swedish story.
I'm not naming names. I'm just asking, do you have any experiences to share?
The most unsafe arena I've ever been in, I think was nicknamed Arena of Death. That most Armageddon players, tournament players have been to, have all pretty much had a similar experience of wow. In Stockholm, Sweden, it was impressive design, layout, really well built. There's a whole section, it's like Aliens movie, another section that's Warhammer 40K, a giant Space Marines tank. Very impressive build out. But it's in a cave, like underground. The whole city is like built on granite, and it's many stories below ground. There's a cave floor section with moisture and water in, so it's slick. They have a rat problem. They have rat poison just on the ground, and it's kicking up dust, so you can hear it. They had light bulbs that when they went bad, they just broke them and replaced them, and just left the broken glass on the floor, mixed with the rat poison, and on the slippery floor. There's beams that are not painted or highlighted at all, that are right across head area in areas that have no lighting, so you can just smash right into it. Exposed nails, pallets and stuff, and rusty nails just sticking out everywhere. But the by far the craziest part is the elevated sections. They have almost sort of like a spiral staircase, like a center tower that leads to the multiple floors. So it's like concentric rings above each other in this open area. And the stairwell, I say it's stairs, that goes up, stairs would be bad enough, but there's no side railing. So it's not like a ramp with a rail. It goes straight down, and the stairs turn into a ramp. Like at one point, the stairs, and then it just becomes ramp, like smooth ramp at like a 30-degree angle, and then it goes back to stairs. And it's not painted or highlighted or anything, and there's no side railing. And I played with several people from the UK on the team when I was there, and we all just agreed we weren't going up to the top floor. Like, we just looked at it, it was like it wasn't worth dying to win the game. It was a powerful area, but we weren't going. We just stayed in the lower levels. I've had slips and falls and stuff on ramps before, and I've had to use that side railing to stay up many times, especially some zone arenas. No side railing on that one was not something was going in. So that's probably the I'd say craziest arena I've been in, like, or difference in national, like, because apparently they said like you can't, there's the way the tort laws are in Sweden, it's kind of all on you. You can't really sue people. So like you saw how dangerous it was. You played anyway. So I didn't get to see it because I didn't go up to the top floor, but there was a section with like exposed electrical wires just laying in the water across the floor, I was told. And I think Redneck Tech has a video of it, and there's a hallway with a door, like a regular, like bathroom door, like a knob, and it opens between the two hallways. So you can just open it right into somebody's face that's going right along, and off the floor they go, down the shaft to the bottom.
These are the stories of laser tag lore, because everybody has heard about this arena, whether you've been there or not, but you've experienced it. So I take your story as truth there, because you've seen a lot of things, and you've seen a lot of packs, and you've seen some packs that have migrated. So you know what I'm talking about. Tell me a story about the packs you've played in multiple locations, because you've had some interesting, unique experiences.
I think a lot of Armageddon players have gotten to play on the same packs, Redneck Tech's packs and Logan's packs, as we've gone arena to arena and done setups. I've gotten to play at some packs that have actually been multiple arenas in Lasertron. The story I told you, the LT7, later LT9 at a site. Spaceplex out here was famous out in this area. And then they closed, and the packs moved to a new site that opened called Sports Blast, which closed, and then the packs moved to a site called Fun Zone, and then that closed, and then they moved to a site that's still operating right now that was called Laser Bounce. So it's been on operation in 4 sites, and I've probably played every single one of those packs at one time or another in all 4 sites. So they're no longer in operation at Laser Bounce. They have upgraded. I think they're running 11.5 now, but they still have them in storage. And I've told the owner before he ever throws them away, I want at least one of those packs and the radio, because I will set it up at my arena so I can say I played that pack in 5 stores.
I love it. And I love stories like that because you do see so much transition between businesses, and it's cool to hear that the equipment just keeps on trucking. And that's a rather unique experience, but not everybody can say and almost nobody, I bet, can say they've played it in 4 to 5 different locations, the same gear.
It wasn't just the same gear, it was the same arena. The actual columns and bases and everything moved from building to building.
Oh, the entire setup. Oh my goodness.
Everything. Yep.
Then you've got to get a piece of that arena to just drop in the middle of yours. That's awesome. Definitely a unique story, though, and something that not everybody can claim. And tell me, what else have you encountered that's been really unique, or something that you're just not going to see every place? Anything come to mind that I need to see that I haven't yet?
At this point, I would say you've probably been to every site that I've ever been to, except for some of the foreign ones or ones that have closed, most likely. Some very, very good tactical fields. If you've never been to over in New Jersey, Fireball Mountain, it's very different than a lot of the tactical fields I've been to. It's like the highest levels of professional run, quality equipment, quality setup, quality staff, organized games, very complex game formats that are well run, not just seat of the pants, like some of the most successful or the largest of the paintball fields, organized type level. It was definitely interesting. Like it's the most enjoyable. It's what got me into enjoying tactical. And the owner had moved to his new location. He originally had a different business, but now it's Fireball Mountain, and he's got an amazing field with like trenches and castles, and not just randomly thrown up, like well thought out and how their usage. And each side has different advantages and disadvantages. And I mean, it's tactical, and yet he's able to basically have equal wins for each side. So they have different ways to play, but they have equal chance of winning, which is an unusual thing. Normally it's just, it's in these woods, and one side always has an advantage.
I just recently played at a tactical arena that had something I've never seen before, but maybe you have, or maybe I've seen it and not realized it. It's not even that I've seen it, that I smelled it. What it was, I was at TAC Ops, which is a tactical arena in the site I was at was in Fairfield, New Jersey. And they have a very theatrical, very immersive atmosphere there. And their rooms, they have a couple of rooms that one is the respawn location in the barbershop where they're pumping in the fragrance of shaving cream. And then they have another room that looks like a bar room where they are pumping in the fragrance of a stale beer. And then there's a tank in the middle, and you get the fragrance of artillery fire. And I wonder if that's something that you've encountered anywhere else, because I don't think that I have.
I can't say that. I mean, I've been to some that had some interesting smells from the paint. I don't think it was necessarily intentional. I've been to some that had some artificial foliage that happened to have like an aroma because that's just what they purchased. I don't know if that was too intentional, like jungle themes and things like that, you have houseplant fake ones that have a bit of plant aroma, like chlorophyll smell. But usually it's just the fog juice smell.
Well, that one we know very well. And I think you would probably be more likely to find something like that in a tactical arena where they've put some theatrical theming in intentionally versus the average traditional arena. But it is kind of interesting to see how tactical and traditional handle things differently. And so we'll have to check that one out.
Yeah. Let me know where that is. If I pass by, I got to try that because I've never seen that before.
Are there any other unique experiences you can think of that you could share from all your many years of laser tag?
I would say probably one of the most unique ones. It's just like local, or going way back to just, still playing on Long Island and hadn't played anywhere else. That Laser Space, the Korean zone knockoff system I played, had a very competitive league system. It wasn't the first league I played in, but it was the first, it was. So, but it was the first like real competitive one we had with multiple teams and back and forth, and different ones could win different times. there was a lot of personalities involved, and again, everyone had different nicknames, as said, and other people picked it. There was one player that was nicknamed by everybody else the Terminator. He played basically like the first Terminator movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger going through the police station, just walking down, and as people like popped out, he just shot them. He didn't run, he didn't dodge, he didn't hold a phaser up high, literally just at the waist and just walked around. He's very, very large man and slow, and just dominated like high scores, top 3 every game, but no tactical, or just kind of wandering around. But they also joked was that he was like a horror movie villain, kind of like, I guess, the Terminator, so to speak, in that he had like the ability to always catch up to you even if you were running away and he was just walking. Suddenly he was always around the corner, and he had the monster teleport ability where he would just appear in areas he couldn't. And that literally happened. My friend and I were in a cubby, one of those ones that has one way in, and we're each on a separate wall, and we're bunkered in. It was like a little pillbox cubby with like 2 walls like this, and then the back wall. So we're each, and they're like, kind of like Laser Quest style, like down like 45. So we're each shooting over the tops of them and crisscrossing fire. And we're in there a good minute, I'd say, holding out against attack around our base area. And that was the entrance to the base area, basically. So people couldn't set up to attack the base. And suddenly we both get tagged. And we like are looking at each other because we both got shot in the back, and we turn around and there's Terminator standing between us, back against the wall, and just walks out of the cubby. And my friend and I both look at each other, look at him, look at each other, and then both of us just instinctually just looked up as if like that's where he came from. And if you had seen this man, he didn't climb on the wall.
Oh, goodness.
But somehow he must have just walked in there. Somehow we didn't notice him. He must have been down, lights off, because it was very dark. And we just hadn't noticed him. And for some reason, he decided not to tag us for 45 seconds just to catch the surprise at the end. But that was the personality. Almost everyone that I played with in the group had the story about the Terminator just appearing behind them at some point.
That's awesome. That kind of falls into the category of that probably couldn't happen twice, or maybe it could be that guy. But it's funny, the things like that you remember that'll just stay with you forever. So, any other memories that pop into your mind? Because we love the stories. All laser tag players have those kind of moments to reminisce about.
This goes way back on it. Same site, totally different game, a different team. But back then, your first laser tag experience, if you're not exposed to the larger competition scenes, you don't really have well thought out rules. It's basically the no running, climbing, or jumping type thing. Mm-hmm. This is back in the 90s. They didn't even have a rule about kneeling. Like, you could kneel back then. Like, even in sites that didn't like running, like, of course you can kneel. Why not? Or crouch. This led to the league eventually having a rule about crawling. We were playing the game, and the base is all locked down. Again, this is like a zone base style, like outer area and inner perimeter area. And it was a heavy battle going on in the base with base evac, and so people are going, cycling in and out. And suddenly our base just goes off, and we're all kind of looking around or whatever. And then someone looks down, and a kid had laid on his back and shimmied like a snake between the legs of my friend into the base, got underneath and somehow shot the base. And somehow none of us had noticed him. No one just peripheral just looked down. Like, all the lasers that are going, just like they make lights on the floor, so his pack lights just kind of builded, I guess, to the ground for that. When we look down, he's just on his back, just shooting the base.
Oh my goodness. Sometimes those little ones have a better advantage than you think. That's crazy.
So that was my first exposure to no crawling rules. The league quickly implemented them after that game.
Oh, it's amazing what the last 35 years of laser tag have forced you to think about that you didn't before. Oh, well, that's an awesome story. And, you're in the very early stages of having stories to tell from your own watching young ones and older ones and all sorts of players enjoy your arena. But do you have any stories that have happened at Kynytyx so far that'll stick with you in your mind for a while?
Not really, per se, but it's just more enjoyable hearing everyone else's stories and in my own head thinking like, oh, that's not a great one. That's one of the ones that you're like at the time was, oh yeah, but then better ones are going to quickly push that one out of your, repertoire. But it's really enjoyable seeing people, I have no experienced players here, so everybody's a first timer, so it's getting to see all of that. Like I've experienced that a bit at sites that I've been playing at, when new people come in, but I've never been able to experience it like this much, where everybody's a new person. So it's all these people's, first time this and first time that, and, the first time an underdog wins, that kind of thing, and the excitement that generates and that sort of behavior. I would say their biggest moments right now are those underdog, when somebody wins something, especially a solo game or elimination and somebody wins that nobody thought was going to win, that kind of thing.
What have you found to be the most rewarding part of being on this new side of the fence as the operator watching all that?
Oh, the kids, like the birthday parties are, the lifeblood of the laser tags, as say, birthday party factories in a lot of ways. But a bad day at a laser tag is still a good day when you have a bunch of happy kids. It's really hard to have, a really bad day. You can be stressed, you can be tired, etc. But like, it's not like an office job and just, depressed and miserable. Like if the kids are having a great time, it's kind of infectious energy.
That's awesome. And I think that, watching kids play kind of takes you back to what made you fall in love with laser tag in the first time. I know it does for me, I especially love to see a little girl take out her brother or the older players or whatnot. And if I can coach her in a game, I just love to see that. So very cool. Because you do take away some pretty cool experiences. And I know you have taken away more than just experiences. You've brought back some awesome souvenirs. And I know that you've been very instrumental in helping the Laser Tag Museum to acquire a couple of cool items. But I would love to hear about your collection of laser tag and what some of the really nice finds you've amassed might include. What kinds of things do we find in Aztec's laser tag collection?
The coolest for me was actually a Laser Quest pack. I think it was R11 pack. I'm not as great with the laser tag equipment or Laser Quest equipment as I am with some of the others, so I might have had the wrong version of, but I believe it was an R11 that had come from the UK into Russia that was reverse engineered to make the Last Club. Basically the first Russian-made laser tag system. I got to meet the engineer in Moscow who had done it, and basically reverse engineer made his own equipment out of it. And he gave me one of the packs that he had reverse engineered to make it. It no longer worked, but I donated that one to the Laser Tag Museum because I thought that was interesting. I said, we get alongside one of the Last Club packs. You can put the Laser Quest pack that literally was used to make it. I know they had other versions of that Laser Quest pack, but not one that was reverse engineered to make another system. It'd be kind of cool to have the exact pack. So I thought that was kind of the coolest thing I found. But my collection is pretty tame compared to most of the other people, such as yourself, that collect. I actually don't even have any actual full photon gear, as you have behind you. I have photon home gear, a bunch of it. Too much, my wife would say. All stuff I wanted as a kid, the laser tag home equipment, the Worlds of Wonder toys, the base, Bart and star helmets, etc., that I could never afford as a kid and never had, especially the photon, home packs where it's like the aircraft carrier for GI Joe. There's only one kid in the whole school had that thing, and he was the bomb. But yeah, the photon packs. So now I have multiple of the photon packs for the home stuff. And I still kind of like it. I know the helmets are out of date, but as a couple of people have said, going to Photon for the first time, and experiencing Photon, it's reminded me of it. It's a different experience. It seems really dumb, the idea of the helmet, but it totally changes your perspective of the game going in. When you put the helmet on, it's like, whoa, like it takes you out of the rest of the world in a way that the vests and packs don't. But yeah, so most of my collections like that. The coolest artifact in the homebrew market that I'd say I have is a Star Trek phaser, which is effectively the first home laser tag system. Like it actually was two Star Trek phasers that can tag each other. I think they came out in 1979. So it's not the original laser tag like the Miles gear or something, but it was the first actual infrared system that could tag another system that was sold commercially, for home use.
That's awesome. Very cool.
My wife got it for me as a birthday present one year, and I don't know how she found them because they working condition are rare. So,
Oh, absolutely. Well, what would be your grail item to try and acquire? Is there a laser tag artifact out there that you'd just love to get your hands on?
I mean, my first default would probably be to say the black rifle.
Oh, yeah.
That I got to hold, and that's probably the most exciting picture I have.
Me
at
too.
the museum. Just because it's it exists. It's the thing that does exist. They're like some of the photon figurines. Like I think you have the prototype Tivia. I know there was rumor that there was actually more than a prototype made, like an actual painted figure, but I don't know if that's true.
I have seen a picture of a painted figure. I have a not so much painted figure. It's got the gray base paint. So I presume that there are a few floating around there. There at least two. I have the
For
one
advertising or something they made them. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know what? I guess that would make sense because there was a print ad for it. So there has to be a painted prototype out there. But only have I seen that in photos. Much like the Mandar, I've only seen in photos. Yeah.
So some of those would be pretty neat to have, just because as a kid I wanted them and they never actually existed. But I swear I remember seeing them in the catalogs and stuff as a kid around Christmas time. Like, oh, and then told that they don't exist. I'm like, but I saw pictures of them. So that's kind of that with the black rifle. But honestly, I would love to be able to get a laser space pack. Like I said, the system I played that had such an influence, that the first real competitive experiences I had in laser tag, because it was such a, I don't know how many sites they had in Korea, maybe 20, but in the US they had 3, and then they all went away, and they look quite a bit like the old laser blast packs do. But yeah, other than a couple of pictures of some promotional material, that the museum has, that's it. I haven't seen any others. I would like to try and track down the gentleman that was the manager of the site here. Apparently he still lives here in New York and Queens. We had found his address and then lost it. So I might show up at his house one day, see if he remembers me. But if there's any packs in the US, he would probably know where they are.
Well, I certainly hope you acquire one and find it someday, because I think there's something really special about the first laser tag that you ever play. I think your first becomes your favorite just almost by default. There's something extra special about it. Do you feel the same way?
Oh yeah, definitely. Although again, my first technically was Photon, but I would never consider myself a Photon player. I probably played fewer than 20 games total. But yeah, the first system, like that sort of became my home system, and that I played the most, and probably still played the most games on. I mean, we lost track well over 2,500 games. I have no idea. We used to play so many games a week for years that I don't think I'll pass it on many other systems, or at least even if I do on another manufacturer's equipment, I don't think I'll ever pass that many on one version. Mm-hmm. Like might pass it on Laser Force, but split up between Gen 6, Gen 7, Gen 5, Gen 8, eventually Gen 9, that kind of thing.
Which begs the question, now that you have your own arena and you have your generation that you're operating with, how much laser tag do you play now versus what you played back in the day? Do you play more or do you play less?
A lot less. Too busy. Yeah, I mean, if there's an opportunity to play for the staff, someone has to watch the front if we're open. It's the owner's job, really. I should be the one doing it. So a lot of times I'll watch and let other people play. I probably played fewer than 100 games in the last 6 months since we opened. A good chunk of those were just testing stuff, because we have some formats we've modified or other things. We're just running a quick test game and tweaking it, so stopping the game early, that kind of thing. I think on the membership card here, I'm only in the 60s, like 61, 62 games swiped in. So,
oh wow, I guess we always think that if you own a laser tag place, you're going to take advantage and play as much as you can, but you've got grown-up responsibilities too. So, but it's still amazing to get to have your own place, I'm sure. And having seen it, like I say, it's really a beautiful arena, and I hope lots of people visit you and get a chance to experience what Kynytyx has to offer, because you do have some very cool, unique things, and I know you have more in store for your customers. So it's going to be very cool to see how Kynytyx evolves and grows and becomes part of the landscape of laser tag out there on Long Island. And I appreciate you taking some time to answer a few questions and share some stories. And I always like to wrap up with a little rapid fire tag talk.
Let's give it a shot.
I'll fire some quick questions at you. Just fire some quick answers back. All
Okay.
right. Favorite laser tag system of all time?
Oh God, that's so tough. I'm gonna say Laser Space, and then I had the most fun with it. But you know, no, I'm gonna say V4, System Z V4 Zone.
All right.
If I could only play one the rest of my life, that'd be it.
Favorite arena besides your own?
VB, when it was Zone.
Okay. Coolest person that you've ever met through laser tag?
Basically, everybody at Armageddon.
Okay.
But I mean, talking to you here, you know, and Eric and stuff, I don't know if I can pick one person.
Lots of cool experiences out there. Coolest place that you've ever visited because of laser tag?
Oh, Russia.
Okay.
I wouldn't have gone if it hadn't been for laser tag. So
Biggest prize that you've ever won?
Armageddon. That was certainly the most difficult.
Okay. Favorite tournament you've ever played?
Russian Armageddon, the last 2 times I played.
And favorite snack at the concession stand?
Popcorn.
All right, very good. Well, thank you, Nathan, Aztec, owner of Kynytyx, laser tag guru, who gives me a run for my money as far as the count of arenas. Thank you so much for taking some time for some laser unfocused tag talk. I appreciate it, and thanks so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Laurie.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Laser Unfocused Tag Talk. Listen for more episodes on the first and third Friday of each month. Want to be a guest on an upcoming episode? Find out more and follow my blog and website at tiviachickloveslasertag.com.